Woo! Welcome back. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into the fourth and final preseason CTW Postgame show. I am your host, Rob Haytayan. Join with me my three amazing co-hosts. You guys know them by now, but if you don't, Seamus Zarlingo, Griffin Aldrich, and Andrew Quinn. Guys, tonight, the Boston Celtics picked up their last win of the preseason, 110-108 with a game winner at the end, guys. How about that? Game winner by Xavier Tillman gives the Celtics the 108 win on the parquet floor back home at the TD Garden. Guys, we got a lot to talk into. Obviously, the next game the Boston Celtics are scheduled to play is the start of the 2025-2026 NBA season. Enough of the talk, enough of the rumors, enough of the question marks, guys. The study guide is, as I like to call it, is finally here. Guys, you know the drill here. Our initial thoughts, reactions, and takeaways from tonight's, I'll call it electric win.
We were this close. We were this close to overtime.
I knew you were going to say it.
Versus the Raptors yet again. I mean, how is it possible that we have two games that come right down to the wire? They're tied at the end in the final waning seconds. No overtime in this preseason. I mean, at least this one isn't a Friday night, folks. This one's not a Friday night. It's a Wednesday night. The stakes are a little
worse,
less.
Though.
Is it really?
Oh, it's worse.
I'd rather say people are trying to get out into the world on a Friday night versus a Wednesday night.
True.
A Wednesday night is
when you're us, though. When you're us, this is our Friday night.
Every time the Celtics play, it's like a Friday night, I will say. It's kind of like that. But especially when the Celtics win, like they did tonight. I mean, this was kind of the revenge game for what we saw 2 games ago when the Celtics went up to Toronto, grabbed a 20-point lead, and lost. Tonight, the Celtics, not quite a 20-point lead, but at the end, Celtics, they broke through. For some reason, I was a little confused at the end of the game. So the Raptors and the Celtics played their starters and their real rotation guys throughout this game, which I think we all have to say, congrats to the Raptors and the Celtics. I mean, last game we were talking about this. We were talking about how the Celtics, can they get anybody's starters? Can they see anybody's real rotation? Tonight, it finally happened. And not only did we see the Raptors' real rotation, we saw the Celtics' real rotation for about 7 minutes there with Jaylen Brown out on the floor until, of course, unfortunately, Jaylen Brown exits the game with a hamstring injury. Didn't seem that serious, but could be something we have to monitor moving forward with. Opening night, only a week away from tonight. But Jaylen Brown, he goes out within the first 7 minutes. However, the Celtics, they still play a competitive game throughout the night. The Raptors do as well. But what I was confused about was at the end of the game, the Raptors, in the last 4 or 5 minutes of the game, the Raptors went, all right, white flag. We're going to pull our guys and we're going to put in our bench squad. And the Celtics, they went, well, thank you for this win. Thank you. The Celtics went on a 17-2 run, established their lead. But then all of a sudden, what was kind of the embarrassing moment of the night for the Celtics is the Celtics' real rotation guys, or at least and I don't even know how to term this nowadays, because some of the guys who are out there, right, like Jordan Walsh and Xavier Tillman, do you go, are they going to be in the real rotation this year? Last year, you would have seen those guys as, the bench mob, right? But then now they might actually be out there on a night-to-night basis for the Celtics. But ultimately, at the end of the game, the Celtics go on that huge run. The Raptors, I find it a little bit ironic. Battle, who hit that 3 at the end, looks a little bit like Niang. Just saying, he looks a little bit like Niang out there. And of course, he hits that huge 3 to nearly send it into overtime before Xavier Tillman wins the game. I mean, anytime there's a win on the table, you want to see the Celtics win. If, of course, the Celtics fan base watching this, they want to see a Celtics win. But the end of the game, a little confusing on how it went about. You would have liked to see it on two prongs, right? On one hand, the Celtics, that 17-2 run, we really like to see that out of the C's to close out this game. Yet, on the other hand, they allow the Raptors back into the game to the point where we almost see overtime when the Celtics had established a 10-plus point lead there at the end. After this preseason, I would say I'm mostly encouraged by the Celtics play, but there are little inklings here and there that the Celtics, they're not going to quite be on that elite level of teams this year. They're going to probably be somewhere in the mid-tier with the chance to break through to that top 10. Like I said, last post game, that's where the Celtics want to be this year. But ultimately, encouraging preseason throughout. Tonight was mostly encouraging, but there were definitely some spots, and it was about the overall team. Individual performances, there are going to be a lot of good things to say, but when it comes together as a team, that's what's going to be the huge conversation for the C's this year, is if it all matches and works well together.
Yeah. And I want to say my initial thoughts from this game were I think the one thing that you're going to see this season is just opportunities. It has opportunities written all over it. And one thing I wrote down in my notes is, for example, Josh Minott. Like, he came in there, and this is a guy who on a Timberwolves team did not have a lot of opportunities. You said right there, why not, why not?
Why not?
Yeah, but this is a guy who hasn't had a lot of opportunities on the Timberwolves. Now is going to get here and shine, and these are the points and times where you could see players grow. And that's why the G League is such a great tool, because in the G League, you see those players grow and they could develop. However, the Boston Celtics are going to be a development team this year. And I know we probably all heard that here, but they're playing some pretty good basketball. And I know it's preseason and you're facing off a lot against those bench pieces. However, it's going to be interesting to see what Jaylen Brown can do. Obviously, him going down earlier in the game was a punch that you did not want to take, and we hope that everything goes well so he could come back and start the season off. But other than that, it's like, who can be the next man up for the Boston Celtics? And I know we'll probably get into it later, but I saw a lot of things I loved from Derek White tonight, and that's going to be a guy who is going to really take a next big step up for the Boston Celtics. And you look, there's guys who can contribute in favor of Jason Tatum. There are guys who are going to step up and take that weight on their shoulders. But tonight, ultimately, it's preseason, and this is the most real look that you're going to get at a preseason game, because you saw it. A lot of the starters were playing, and they were playing for a majority of the game. I mean, in the last minute, we didn't see Kendall Brown or Max Scholga out there, so it definitely was a different twist. However, Celtics still came away with the win. And one last thing is Tillman. This is a guy who we talked about all last year about, hey, he's going to be on his way out. Hey, like, what's this phantom, like, not playing, phantom injuries? Like, we had so many different scenarios for Tillman, and we pretty much kissed him goodbye, and now he's out there making the game winner. So this is a guy to also keep your eyes out and look for, because this is a guy that I think could kind of shine. He's getting more of an opportunity as of other guys as well, but it's really going to be in regular season where it makes or breaks what we could see from Tillman. So, well, ultimately, it was a close win. And Seamus, you mentioned it. A lot of the bench guys for the Raptors came out at the end, and the Celtics were losing to the bench guys. And it's hard to say, hey, last year, could we compete with this team and ultimately dominate them? This year, it's like, all right, we might be in the same category as them. So it's tough, but ultimately, I'm ready for regular season. I mean, preseason's fun because you get a little taste of it, but now we're on our way to regular season, and I'm ready. I think this season is going to be a really fun season, and I don't know. I'm ready. What about you, though, Andrew?
Yeah, I think this was a step in the right direction when it comes to this team, because preseason is a tool to find identity, like we talked about in the past couple of post-game shows. And tonight you saw a team that looked a little more collectively together, and you saw guys step into the roles that they're going to have throughout this regular season. I thought for a team that is fairly new and working together, like, I thought their ability to move the ball, their unselfishness on the offensive end was really fun to see. There's a lot of extra passes, a lot of playmaking on that end, and for a team that is fairly new, it's a good sign to see, because that's only going to develop as the season continues. on the defensive end, I was really. What's up, Rob?
No,
I
no,
saw a
no, no.
reaction. Oh, I thought you were about to
Keep
say
going. I
something.
got you.
But
No, I got you. I'll get
defensively, I was pretty happy with how they played, because a lot of the times guys are going to the rim. There is a contest no matter what. Like it is contested. They're challenging the guys at the basket and making that offense difficult for the opposing team. Was this game like pretty? Was it a full 48 minutes of basketball that really showed they were there the entire game? No, but I think the game did show a lot of positive aspects of this team and what we're capable of, and it showed things to build off of. So this team is scary. It's a team that you're gonna underestimate when you play them. It's a team that may not be what they were these past couple of seasons, but it definitely is a team that wants to prove something. It's a team that has guys stepping into bigger roles. Like you're giving Derek White, you're giving Pritchard, you're giving these guys to improve, show what they're capable of, and you're allowing them to kind of expand their game and step into those roles. And so I think there's a lot of potential in the season, and we just got to see how it plays out. But this was a game that shows a lot for the Celtics team and the fans, that they're not going to lay down, and they have some threat to the league in this coming season.
Yeah. So, those games where you're up by 20 and there's 8 minutes left in the fourth, and the starters have all played 29 to 30 minutes, and you're like, oh, hell yeah, we have a game tomorrow night. We're gonna bench the starters for these last 8 minutes. We're comfortable. We're gonna put our second and third string in. Yeah, that's not happening this year, folks. That is not happening. Message to the starters, the top 7. Get your running shoes on, fellas, because you guys are going to be playing a lot of minutes this season. Tonight, I thought the top 7 looked solid. I thought there were highlights and there were downlights. Any preseason game, any NBA game is going to give you that, right? I think players that needed to show us something showed us something. Neemias Queta being the biggest one, I think, for me tonight. We'll talk more about all the individual play later. But I think where I'm at with this Celtics team through the first 4 preseason games, and obviously 25-game rule sticking, fellas. We are officially kicking that off next Wednesday night, a week from today. But this is a team where the top 7 is pretty good, actually. Like, there's 7 guys on this roster that's really deep and solid and are growing chemistry to play with each other. Everything under that is mediocre, would be a compliment right now. And that's not a joke. It really gets pretty bad towards the bottom half of the roster. And I think you're starting to see that with these preseason games. They just blew another 12-point. They can't even get the ball over half court. I mean, this was a carbon copy. I felt like I was watching the Knicks series again. It was a carbon copy of what happened and what transpired in Toronto just the other night. So that's kind of where I'm at, guys, where I think if bearing any injuries, because again, you saw 2 of the Celtics players tonight exit the game and not return, Luka Garza and Jaylen Brown. Bearing any injuries, I think this is a team that can be a really frisky competitor in the Eastern Conference and hold down the fort until Jason Tatum hopefully comes back. Emphasis on that. And, I do think they showed us some good signs this preseason, though, right? I don't think it's going to be as gloomy as people might think. I do think this is a roster that can compete. I think they have an identity that they're slowly forming. And I do think they showed that at times tonight, guys. And I say that because let's take a look right into the lead tracker on the night. And this was a funky, Seamus, guys, are we, is this a sea of green? Like, there is a wave of green, but is it a sea? Is it a pond?
It's a pretty choppy sea of green. I'll say that. It's a choppy sea.
Yeah. It's a choppy sea.
Not all waters are smooth.
No, you're right. It was rough sailing for the Seas tonight. But again, at the end of the day, they were able to get the win, guys. Largest lead of the night for the Celtics was 13. Again, for the Toronto Raptors, their largest lead of the night was only 3 points. The Boston controlled this game for a majority of it. As you see, they got off to that big lead in that first quarter. They kept it there just before the first half ended. They kind of held that steady 6 to 8 point lead throughout the second half until eventually the Raptors made a go at it late in that fourth quarter, and Boston just barely slipped by. Guys, you look at this lead tracker. what was something that Boston did? This is a two-part question, so get ready. What is something Boston did well to extend that lead? And then what went wrong in that fourth quarter that we saw transpire tonight?
Well, ultimately, what went wrong in that fourth quarter late was the Celtics turning the ball over, and you kind of mentioned it, Rob. They couldn't get it over half court there for a minute,
Yeah.
and when you ultimately just keep turning the ball over, and it's part of variance too, because on the other end of the floor, the Raptors just kept making their shots, but then also on top of that, one could look at the defensive end for the Celtics when the Raptors were just making every single one of their shots, and a lot of their shots were open shots near the end of the game, and it almost felt like one of those mental lapses for the Celtics where they established the lead. And Griffin, we were on the phone, I believe, when this was
Yeah.
going on, right? I was asking, I was like, "Are you coming on post?" You know, we were on the phone together, and the Celtics go on that run, and we both had the tone of, okay, the Celtics have won this game, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, we'll see each other on post game, click, and
Yeah.
then the Celtics it was downhill from there. And I'm going, oh, this is why you do not. This is why you have to play till the clock says zero, right? Till the final buzzer. That's a Paul Pierce quote, right? He always talks about playing until the clock hits zero, because tonight, a perfect example of that, the Celtics, they felt like they won this game with about a minute and a half, 2 minutes left, and then all of a sudden in 20 seconds, I mean, but the Celtics were up, I want to say six. Was it 1-0? I believe it was, or no, they were up 12, and then six.
12, yep.
It was, I believe it was 106 to 94, if I'm not mistaken. And then within 20 seconds, the Raptors hit two threes, and then it's 106, 100, and then from that point on, possession for possession, in the Raptors, that's a two possession game at that point in time. So the Celtics at the end of the game just didn't quite take care of things on a possession to possession basis. Offensively, very sloppy, and then defensively, just wasn't getting the job done on that end either, execution wise. But then in the middle of this game, right, when we see that choppy sea of green, when we see that go up, that's when the Celtics are hitting on all cylinders on both ends of the floor. I mean, tonight was a block party for the Celtics, especially for Keita and Boucher in the first half. I mean, the Celtics at halftime, their blocks number was absolutely absurd. And the Celtics, when they were getting after it on the defensive end of the floor, coming up with those blocks not only took away possessions from the Raptors and gave them to the Celtics, but they also, those are energy moments, right? They inject energy into a team. When a player comes up with a block, I mean, that can really inject a team, especially in transition, to go down and score on the other end. That's what the Celtics did well at tonight, and they've done a good job at that throughout this preseason, is getting after it on the defensive end, getting scrappy on that end, turning that into transition opportunities, and then scoring on the other end of the floor, while also maintaining their fast-paced offense in the half court. That's what the Celtics did tonight in the good moments. But then as you see the bad moments in there, the Celtics, they weren't taking care of the ball. And then defensively, I actually thought defensively the Celtics were pretty sound throughout this game outside of the end. And the moments in which the Raptors were coming back in this game, it was more the Celtics not fully executing on the offensive end of the floor. But defensively, I thought the Celtics kept their energy high throughout this game. And one can say too, the lineups, these are not going to be quite the lineups we see during the regular season. I don't see the team being quite this deep during certain games, such as this close game, right? This could be a real scenario in the regular season where the Raptors and the Celtics play each other later on down the line, play a close game against each other, and this could have stakes for maybe a playoff spot. Just saying, for the sixth seed later on down the line, maybe a playing spot. Who knows? But in this scenario, you probably see the lineup structured a little bit differently, especially near the end of the game when it comes to these two teams. But from what we saw tonight, a lot of encouraging things out of the Celtics. Would have liked to see them close out a little bit better, but they really did close out this game with that 17-2 run, and then they just went, all right, cool, we closed it out, and then didn't really pay attention to the final minute 30 seconds. That final minute 30 seconds, they just, I mean, really, it's what, two threes, two stops, and that's it. That's really the conversation between, oh, the Celtics, they didn't close out this game all that well, and the Celtics closed out this game perfectly. So it's really possession by possession. The Celtics are still very close to, I think, a team this year that, we're all saying it here, and there's mixed opinions. I will say there's mixed opinions in the group. I know somebody watching right now who has been on this program lately might have a different opinion on this team this year, on where they might go. maybe a little bit more pessimistic opinion, but I would say collectively, we believe the Celtics could be a little more frisky of a team this season than originally thought to be this summer. And I think these preseason games, especially against the Raptors, a good team, I would say this season going into this year, proves that.
Well, I have to say this, Seamus, and you guys are gonna kill me for hearing this again because we heard it all last year. It's just a fact of not keeping their foot on the gas pedal, and you guys knew I was gonna say, but this is my thing. Those are bad habits that you have to break, especially with the young core that we have coming in. You have young guys in there, and you have guys that are going to be learning into this system, and they're continuing with those bad habits. And again, Seamus, when we were talking, we were like, all right, this one's wraps. Like, all right, we'll see you on post-game show. It's going to be a good night. We're going to be talking about a Celtics win, which we are. But then as soon as we got off call, it was like, whoa, what are we doing? And this obviously goes back to this Friday, last Friday, last Friday. Yep. All right, I got it right. When we lost to the Raptors, it was just another sign of not keeping their foot on the gas pedal, and it just frustrates me because
I don't know. I don't know. Quite frankly, I think their foot's pressed down too hard on the gas pedal, and that's why they just keep turning. I do.
I don't. But this is the thing. I guess they could be trying.
They're losing control of the car, and they're crashing. Turnover. It's like,
all right. But yeah, it's not like they're playing awful and like they just went good night for the rest of the night. It's the fact that you're right. They're playing too fast paced, and I want to kind of out of control. Exactly. I think
it's a lack of focus more than anything else.
Yeah.
It's not like they're, say last year's team, there were a lot of moments where they were just kind of
playing
lethargic. I don't think this team is lethargic. Yeah. I think there are moments where you go, okay, this point of execution could have been handled better. But then you look at it, the guys involved are either, like most of the time when I picture this, I think of Simons and Pritchard. Simons is new, and then Pritchard is kind of playing in a new role. And I go, well, those kind of things can get better, right?
So can I say this? Really quick, sorry, I just want to say this really quick, and this is where I was gonna go and say this, Rob, off of your point not too long ago, and I think that's the key that we might have to use this year is that they're crashing instead of taking their foot off the gas pedal, because I looked at it this game too. We have a lot of young feet on the floor. We're fast, we're agile, we're more. It was like with Al Horford, guys like Porzingis and Holiday, not old but up there in age, and Al Horford is definitely a guy who's older, but there's a lot of young talent on the court, so I don't think they're gonna go to sleep for the night. But I like your statement that you said there, Rob, is they're gonna crash because, and I'm going off of Seamus's point too, or whoever, Seamus or Rob, whatever one of you said it, but there's gonna be 7 guys out there, and I feel more comfortable because I feel like those 7 guys are younger and they could stay out there longer, and they're going to try to give 100% till the end. And I feel like they'll have a better opportunity because they're younger, have more stamina, and can play the game at a faster pace. So I like that outcome. However, it's still concerning because it's like there's going to be a lot of younger mistakes because there's going to be guys like Minot and Garza getting minutes that they've never received before in the NBA, and it's going to be time for a lot of mistakes. And that's why we've talked and said this year is going to kind of be a developmental year because you have such young guys and they're going to be learning things out. But that's why their contracts are so valuable, because they could get that out of the way this year and learn from their mistakes. And then boom, when Tatum's back and you have a fresh new start next year, those guys are used and adjusted to the NBA and adjust to time. And, your future could look very bright with this core in Boston. So this year, honestly, could be a very experimental year. But who knows? This Celtics team could completely shock us. And you saw from the lead tracker that it was definitely a little bumpy road, but those are things you're going to continue to see as the season goes. And I don't think this was just a preseason little mistake. You're going to continue to see it.
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
And can we be honest for a second here? is it just maybe that this Celtics team is up to par with this Toronto Raptors team? Like, is that crazy? Is that as, and again, this is a Toronto Raptors team that is like teetering. Last year they were, I believe, the 12th seed. They teeter between play-in and out of the play-in. I'm not saying that's where the Celtics are going to be, because I do believe this Toronto team took a step. But like, are the Toronto Raptors and the Boston Celtics, are they going to be fighting for a position in the standings this year? Like, is that where we're kind of at? Like, because I watched tonight's game, and talent-wise, I think a lot of similarities arise.
I would say so. I personally, when I look at the Raptors roster, I go, this is a roster that has to take some level of a step in the Eastern Conference this year. I mean, the Eastern Conference is wide open. And I think part of the reason why the Eastern Conference is wide open is because there are a lot of good teams awaiting to establish themselves in the Eastern Conference this season. And one of those good teams could be the Toronto Raptors. You look at their starting lineup. I do have a couple of concerns on how the guys work exactly together, because you have Quickly, you have Barrett, you have Barnes, Ingram, and Pirtle. And I'll say this tonight, Pirtle, we were talking about, could the Celtics acquire Pirtle this summer? I don't know about you guys, but Keita and Pirtle tonight, Keita was better than Pirtle. Okay, Keita was better than Pirtle in just this game. And I would say moving forward, I mean, I wouldn't just slap the label on Keita and say, oh, he's definitively better than Pirtle now. But I would say, I'm just saying, it's pretty close. But regardless, that starting lineup we saw with the Toronto Raptors, right? And there's just the comparison between the centers there. All ironically for the Celtics, that'll be the huge question. But the team, right? The two teams who faced off and I really tonight, because the other game this preseason was not even that those are two teams who will not even see each other in the regular season, especially what the Raptors put out on court the other night in Toronto. Now tonight, however, the Raptors and their starting lineup and who they had playing, I could 100% see this team being a potential top 5, top 6 team in the Eastern Conference at their heights. Now, is there an alternative scenario here where the Raptors, their season just, I mean, they're one of those franchises where they just seem to, for some reason, no matter how much talent they have, they just can't seem to get things right on a winning path. And they're a team without a direction typically, right? You don't know if they're trying to compete or if they're trying to really tank. Right now, though, it seems like they're at the very least trying to compete with this team, especially when you give Brandon Ingram $40 million at last year's trade deadline, which was a little bit of a mistake, knowing this offseason he definitely would not have received $40 million from any team out there. Yet the Raptors went ahead and gave him that contract ahead of time, that extension ahead of time, and made that a little bit of a mistake. But this Raptors team is extremely expensive. They expect to compete. And I look at this game tonight and I go, well, this is a game the Celtics last year. Now, granted, there were a couple of occasions against the Raptors where the Celtics did not handle their business, but the Raptors were overall an opponent last year for the Celtics that the Celtics mainly looked over. I mean, even the losses say that, right? Even the losses say that. This year, I see these two teams on potentially the same level. I saw tonight's game as a legitimately competitive battle between these two teams, and I never felt like, whoa, the Raptors are way better than the Celtics, or whoa, the Celtics are way better than the Raptors. I would not be surprised to see these teams battling between maybe 4 and 8 this year, 4 and 8 in the standings. And you could say, once you're at 8, you could go 9, 10. But between those two spots in the Eastern Conference, I see the Raptors and the Celtics on the same level. And this is just one of those examples. The Celtics, they were up at the top of the standings last year. The Raptors are at the bottom. Well, the Raptors, they're getting a little bit better. They're adding talent this season. They're actually trying to compete this season. Whereas the Celtics, they're on the other end of the spectrum. They're getting worse from where they were last year. And not that the Celtics aren't trying to be competitive, because we know they are on court with Mazzulla and Pritchard and everybody. But the Celtics were certainly not making the moves to install a championship roster this offseason. And that's going to bring both teams to the Eastern Conference average, which is, again, somewhere between maybe 4, 8, and you could go and say 9, 10, somewhere around that range. But would not be shocked to see these two teams battling throughout the season. And let's face it, too, I'm a little upset Justin isn't on this broadcast tonight, because over the summer he said the Celtics and the Raptors, this is no longer a rivalry. This is no longer a rivalry. I think this season and these games already, well, first of all, the preseason, that's a pretty good start. You have the Raptors with a game winner against the Celtics last Friday, and then fast forward to Wednesday, the Celtics get their game winner against the Raptors in the preseason. Then they'll face off another 4 times this season, and again, those games could be big for playoff seeding later on down the line. And who knows? Who knows what the Atlantic Division looks like? Maybe a division title. Those don't really necessarily matter in basketball, but maybe a division title later on down the line. But the Celtics and Raptors rivalry very much back. Very much back. I think it's very much exemplified by these 2 games. And I'm awaiting Justin's response to this on the broadcast when he can come on and talk about the Raptors rivalry. I'm sure we have a game against the Raptors sometime in the next 2-3 months. They can't backload all 4 games against the Raptors, right?
No, that's the division, right? That's a division.
Oh yeah, it's in division.
Yeah, okay.
We'll face them 4 times. At the end of the season, we'll have faced them 6 times. 6.
Mhm.
I mean, that's we will not face the Celtics. Will not face another team more than the Toronto Raptors this season, unless obviously, whoever in the playoffs later on down the line. That is certainly. I'm going unless the Celtics make the playoffs, as if that's not the expectation. Very much the expectation this year for the C's.
Yeah, and
we-
Oh, Robbie, go.
You're good. Go ahead. Take the floor. Don't stop. Don't stop.
No, I sorry. I heard you and I thought there was a little lag, but no, I think this really quick. I look at this in the division and I think I just see the Celtics being a better team. And I know I say that now, that could be 1 seed ahead of the Raptors, but I just see them just slightly being better than them. I think their team, obviously, we're young and are going to have those crashes, as you mentioned, Rob. But I just see the Celtics just slightly being better. I feel like on a night where Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard are all having a good night, and you could even throw Anthony Simons in there. I think them alone and those 3 with their chemistry, I think they're going to outplay the Raptors. And I could be completely wrong with this, but I just see, like, if it's a battle in seeding, I haven't done my, whole standings yet. And I think I will soon, like whether we do that on podcast or CTW live. But I haven't really
an idea. On air idea, folks.
I know, just giving my
Content machine.
I know. Look at me right there. But I haven't given that away. But I just see the Celtics at least being 1 to 2 spots ahead of the Raptors. I just see them being a better team and being more efficient. I don't see the Raptors being as good as the Celtics. Now, could this be the Raptors are the 8th seed and the Celtics are the 7th seed? Absolutely. But I do not see the Celtics being worse than the Raptors this year. Now, I could be biting my words. We could be halfway through the season. And I'm like, dang, I wish I said the opposite thing, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it this year.
I feel like
if I don't mind, Rob, just real quick. I'm gonna go the other way, to be honest. And if you just look at not the other way, but I think they're pretty equal in matchups so far right now. Like, because if you look at the roster, like Toronto does match up very well with the Celtics in my eyes. Like bench depth is kind of similar to the Celtics. Starting lineup, like maybe they're not identical to the Celtics in matchups, but I feel like they can kind of, they can play the Celtics and kind of have guys that can defend our key guys. And so I don't know necessarily which team's better or which team's going to defend, but I do think it's always going to be a game where like it's going to come down to those small margins where what team is going to out hustle, out defend, and put the ball in the hoop. So yeah, there's a chance that this series during the regular season goes 2-2 or is very close, because in those games, it's whoever's going to want it more. And so how are the Celtics going to respond? How the Raptors going to respond? There can be a little more variability in that, and that's how I see it.
I feel like the Celtics are at the bottom of the second tier in the Eastern Conference, and the Raptors are at the top of the third tier in the Eastern Conference. Because I'm not going to lie, so the Raptors obviously acquire Ingram, right? That's a big addition, but they were a 30-win team last year. They were 30-52. That's pretty horrendous, right? Like that's they weren't, you know, they weren't a 9 seed in the West with 48 wins who fortunately, like, this was a team that was pretty awful. And obviously the Celtics they were a 60-win team last year, but this is an entirely new conversation. So I feel like in my mind, and I don't want to get too into this, but like quickly rapid fire, like the first tier is like the Cavs, the Knicks, and the Orlando Magic, right? I think Orlando inserted themselves, no Paulo last year, whatever. They got Paulo back. I think they're a top 2 team. In the second tier, it's like the Celtics, the Bucks, like the Pistons. And then I think like the third tier is like the Hawks and the Raptors maybe sprinkled in there. And this is like neither team at their ceiling, neither team at their floor, just what's right dab in the middle. I think that's just like right around where each team is. And that brings us to, you think about that, Seamus, you talk about it, like, okay, like where does that match them up? There's a good chance these guys are, if you're at the bottom of the second tiers here and the Raptors are at the top of the third tier, where does that put them? What does that put them, fellas? That puts them right next to each other. And I'm kind of with you. I think there's a chance that they're absolutely on the same tier. And I'm gonna even tap in a little bit of what Griffin said, because if I were to lean a direction, Celtics or Toronto, I have to lean Boston, because I think they have an established culture. And I do believe that matters when you're looking at teams like this in the Eastern. I do believe what Mazzulla and what Stevens and what these guys have built in that championship identity and that pedigree, it does matter, and it does win you games. And the Celtics they do still have players on this roster that have experienced a championship and the ups and downs of an 82-game season and going into the playoffs. So I do believe that type of stuff matters. But like, I feel like in my head, that's where Boston will probably be, is the bottom tier of that the bottom tier of that second tier, the bottom half. Geez, sorry, it's still preseason, guys. I'm getting the rest off. In the top half of the third tier is where Toronto will be at. And again, you could talk about floors and ceilings between these two teams, and that it's just, but I feel like the middle, what's expected, that's where they're at. So I don't know. That's just how I feel.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Griffin. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, I want to say too, and I was a person who, when the Pistons, right before they got good, I thought that was a team that, they had a bunch of players and could be a solid team. With the Raptors, I see a similar outlook, and I feel like they could do better this year. However, I don't think they're going to shoot right up to the top like that. And I don't think they're going to surpass the Celtics, like you said, Rob, and I chimed into it too. Celtics still have players that have experience playing with each other. So at the end of the day, I don't think the Celtics are going to be an awful team, because they still have chemistry. There is a lot of new pieces that you're adding into. So that's why I said developmental year. But I just see them outworking the Raptors, and I think the Raptors will be there. And I feel like the seeding, like, it's going to be close. And when we look back, we're going to be like, oh yeah, Raptors and Celtics, they were very similar. I think they're going to be a similar team. I think you're going to see.
I think the Raptors might be a messy plate of nachos, where it's like it's a bunch of random stuff thrown together, and it's probably, there's a good chance it's really, really good, and you're like, wow, that plate of nachos is awesome. But like, more times than not, you're like, that plate was terrible. Like, why did I eat that? Like, that was just random stuff thrown together.
And I more together, like the nachos are a little.
And that's where I agree with. That's where I like kind of go back on my statement and agree with Rob. Is I think the Celtics and the Raptors, they're gonna both work hard. That there's no doubt in that. Yes. But the Celtics have the ability to kind of pick apart the Raptors, kind of play a little slower, be in a little more control, and offensively, they offensively have more maturity to kind of play against the Raptors' intensity on defense, if that makes sense. I mean, they're going to be able to play to the strengths of this, to their team, and almost make the Raptors' intensity on defense, make them kind of pay for that on the offensive end.
And I think to build off your point too, Rob, between the Celtics and the Raptors about the culture established, the Raptors are going to have to find their identity. They're going to have to find their identity, whereas the Celtics, the Celtics are going to have to do a great deal of finding their own identity, but part of it is already established,
Yeah, it's
right?
more
I mean,
like
part of
buying
the
in.
gameplay is established. The players in place are established. Whereas the Raptors, and I would say the hierarchy within the Celtics rotation seems to be somewhat established. They know, okay, here are the players who are going to get the ball in these situations. Whereas the Raptors, you could see a scenario arise where Barnes goes, why does Ingram get it in this situation? Or Ingram goes, why does Barnes get it in this situation, or Barrett, or Quickly? And you could see that arise within that hierarchical structure up in Toronto. But that team, there is some talent there. They have some wings. They have some scoring depth. They're very expensive. They're trying to compete. And that's the difference between last year's Celtics, or rather the Raptors roster last year and this year's Raptors roster. Last year, the Celtics, my lord, the Raptors, talking about the Raptors, folks. Last year, the Raptors openly came into the season. They were very open about tanking. All right. And they didn't say the word tanking, but that's really what it was. The Raptors came into the season very open about tanking. This season, the Raptors are nowhere near that. And could that ultimately not mean anything? Sure. The Raptors could ultimately slot back down where they were last year and not move up the standings whatsoever after a failed experiment with Brandon Ingram and all these guys. But there's also another scenario where they pick up a lot more than 30 wins and they actually look like a competent team in the Eastern Conference if they actually get their identity together. Although with this group of guys, at the end of the day, I I feel like there are some from I just with the Raptors group, I feel like there are some veteran faces who could potentially slot in as maybe RJ Barrett, really the main guy. I could see him kind of taking a more unselfish role within that team. But then the rest, is Barnes going to want to defer to Ingram and vice versa? And then Pirtle, I see him as another veteran guy. Quickly, is he going to get his? I think what's good about the Raptors, at least from their standpoint, with their team and their identity potentially moving forward, and guys slotting in unselfishly into the rotation, is all these guys are paid, right? I mean, that definitely does a great deal to a team when you don't have a point guard trying to make his next deal. That's something that, if you turn around and look at it, the Raptors, they have guys who are paid under multi-year deals, whereas the Celtics, say, have a guy like Simons. He's a free agent after next season. You have a guy like Pritchard. He's not fully paid within his NBA career. I mean, he got that second deal, but he definitely would like that third deal to be a lot heftier than that second deal. So you have on both sides of the Celtics and Raptors. The Celtics, I think sometimes in the Celtics fan base, we kind of, slot them mentally above other organizations just simply because they're the Celtics and they win all the time. I mean, they always make these moves and they win, right? But the reality is the Celtics this season, they're gonna be in the middle of the pack. And there are gonna be some other teams we look at with, and it's gonna be a hard reality too. We're gonna be halfway through the season. There are gonna be some squads that we look at and go, wow, last year the Celtics were way ahead of that squad, and all of a sudden this year the Celtics are looking up at them in the standings. The Raptors, they could potentially be one of those teams. I'm not saying they're the favorite to be that team, but certainly out of these first two preseason games, their new established rotation and where both teams have slotted in, again, the Celtics getting a little bit worse than the Celtics unfortunately declining a little bit from last year, and rather the Raptors improving from last season. Both of these teams could be right next to each other in the standings, and maybe I imagine this. Imagine the Celtics and Raptors face off in a first round playoff series this year. I mean, that would definitely do something for the rivalry
4-5,
between these two.
3-6. It's possible.
3-6, 4-5. I mean,
See it.
let's 1-8. Let's do it.
1-8.
I'd love that.
down
Right?
for
Celtics has the
Assuming
one.
we're the
though,
one.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, Celtics is the one.
We're talking about the Raptors going up the stand. We're like, whoa, hold up, the 1-8. The Celtics are still at the one here. I mean, is there seriously, like, imagine a world real quick. Halfway through the season, the Celtics for some reason are just 20-5, and the Cavs just they haven't gotten going. The Knicks they're not really going yet. The Magic are still do they have a point guard? Do they have a guy who can dribble? And the Celtics are just in that top three.
Well,
I mean, that is
it's one of
not
those-
out of the realm of
No,
possibilities.
it's not. That's the thing. That's how crazy this Eastern Conference is. There's so much variability. There's so many
Every team could say
unanswered
this.
questions.
It's-
So you can have a lot of faith in that. And I don't know. For the Raptors, though, for me, it's like Ingram, quickly, like all these guys, like they can hoop, like they're talented, but I just from like a winning standard of playing winning basketball, I don't necessarily see them as much in the realm and in being within the Raptors organization. Like it just doesn't to me cultivate as much of a winning environment as
They
much
have
as the Celtics does, you know?
they have way more to prove in my eyes, Toronto being. And like that's even after all of these question marks that Boston has. But I look at Toronto, I'm like, okay, listen, this is a team. Seamus, I love the point you made about like who's like there's gonna be I could see it, a post on House of Highlights where Scotty Barnes takes a game, a game tying game winner, a shot, and Emmanuel quickly was like, I was wide open. Right, like why didn't I have the ball, or just something like that? Because the power dynamic there is you really do have like you got RJ Barrett, Emmanuel quickly, Scotty Barnes, and Brandon Ingram, 4 phenomenal players, but it seems redundant, and it's almost like it's almost like the younger version of like the Lakers teams that were thrown together with like they were just the old version of that, where it's just a lot of random talent. And it's like you're all names, and it should work, right? And it feels like that with this Raptors team, just like 10 years younger. And again, youth, maybe that comes into play here. But it just, in my eyes, as I look at Toronto and I'm like, okay, like I see the vision, right? But the power structure is so important. And you mentioned that, Seamus. And the way I look at it, the team I point to is like Orlando, right? And even Indiana, you could kind of make this this conclusion with these two teams, because in my eyes, those are the two like homegrown, young, arising teams, right? They both drafted their power. They're actually technically they didn't draft Tyrese Halliburton, but made a trade for him, and they kind of he's grown up in that organization now. But you saw those pieces fall, right? Where it's like, okay, Franz, okay, Paulo, okay, Suggs and Carter, and there was a construction built, right? It's like, okay, this is how that's constructed. I look at the Raptors. Same with Indiana, right? You had Halliburton as your guy, and then you trade for Nesmith, and you trade for Siakam, and you had Turner there, and it was just like a cohesive unit. I look at Toronto, and I made the Nachos comparison already earlier, and I don't want to do it again, but I'm going to go basketball here. It's just like there is no construction. There is, okay, like I feel like every playoff team, who's your guy that's going to be willing for a night just to play defense, right? They're taking 5 shots, right? They're stopping ball there. And I just don't see that in Toronto. So it's like, I think the world in which Boston's the 2 seed is way more likely in which the Toronto Raptors are like the 4 seed. And I know that might sound crazy, but I don't know if I see it with Toronto. I don't. And I put them in that 3rd tier because I do believe there's a chance. I don't know if I see it. I think it's a lot of random stuff thrown together. It kind of reminds me of Philadelphia, honestly, where it's like Maxey in Paul George, and now Embiid and I'm blanking on the Edgecombe. And it's Edgecombe, VJ? Yeah, VJ Edgecombe. And Jared McCain. It's like all this random talent. Let's throw it together. And it's a little confusing to me. And I don't know, but I do want to pivot here. I do want to pivot to more so focus on the Celtics roster and what we learned from this preseason, and especially Neemias Queta, guys, because Neemias Queta, in my eyes, is probably maybe Peyton Pritchard, but might be the biggest X factor for these guys in terms of staying competitive, because he really is the lone big man who kind of can be the anchor for the Celtics. Guys, he was phenomenal tonight. I mean, he really took a step in this preseason, this 4th and final preseason game, after looking pretty shaky in the last 2. 8 points, 12 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 4 blocks, 4-7. What did we think of Neemias Queta tonight against Toronto? Did he prove to us that he could be a reliable big man, not just tonight, but through these 3 preseason games we saw him in action?
Well, first, the first 2 showings, let's get this out of the way. The first game, we didn't see Queta. The next 2 games, Queta came out and performed in such a concerning way. We all came on this broadcast and thought, the Celtics do not really have a legitimate starting center. However, tonight, tonight's performance from Keita, I think we can all breathe a little bit. Okay. And I think this is just going to be the nature of how Keita's run with the Celtics is going to go this season. It's going to be some nights where it looks like the last two games. Keita, is he being picked apart a little bit? Is he in the right spots? Is he really engaged within the game in all of the right areas? Tonight, I mean, he was in all the right areas plus. And I mentioned it earlier, Jakob Poeltl, we were talking about potentially the Celtics potentially acquiring Jakob Poeltl this summer. Well, there's no need when Keita is definitively outplaying Jakob Poeltl at a significantly cheaper price, I'll add, as well tonight on court. And we'll, of course, have to wait until the regular season to see if that transpires there. But what we saw on court at the TD Garden, Keita was better than Poeltl tonight. And Keita, I think with his performance, it shows there is going to be a little bit of development in Keita's game that makes him a desirable piece in the rotation on especially nights like this. We've been talking about throughout the preseason. Are the Celtics, what is their starting lineup going to look like? Are they really going to, is it they're going to be a standard for the starting lineup, or are they going to kind of mix and match it based on their opponent? Well, tonight, clearly, with Sam Hauser out of the lineup, we don't really know exactly the status of Sam Hauser, whether that was an injury or Sam Hauser's just resting. I don't know why they would just have Sam Hauser resting. That just doesn't really make much sense to me there. But regardless, the Celtics without Sam Hauser tonight went Pritchard, White, Brown. I mean, that's probably going to be the three standard guys right there who are always in the starting lineup if they are, of course, healthy. And then after that, you have Boucher and Keita, and that really matched the size of what the Celtics saw within the Raptors rotation. So you look at the matchups the Celtics have seen this preseason. Tonight was the only matchup in which the Celtics will probably see during the regular season against real starters, a real rotation the Raptors threw out there tonight versus the first three games. The Celtics won't see any of those rotations. But from what we saw from the Celtics rotation facing these different types of rotations, is it seems as if the Celtics, they're going to be willing to dive deep in their bag in different scenarios to throw out different starters. And Keita, will he be a consistent starter? That question is still up in the air. I think there will be nights where Keita does definitively start against bigger squads, say against a team like Toronto who rolls out Jakob Poeltl, maybe a squad like Denver who's going to roll out Jonas Valanciunas and Jokic, right? But then in other matchups where we see a little bit more small ball, right? Maybe the Celtics, later in the season when they face the Warriors, maybe that's a more of a Boucher spot. Maybe that's more of a Tillman spot against Horford, right? Horford versus Tillman, right? The apprentice versus what are the two terms for the apprentice? Is the person who is under the craftsman.
Master?
What is that?
The master.
Yes. Yeah, we can get rid of that word, but that's ridiculous.
Mhm.
But regardless, but that's where we're at. We're with the Celtics lineup because ultimately the Celtics they don't really seem to have their definitive starting center. We can't say. I mean, I don't want to overreact too after tonight with Keita. Keita, this one game, I think a lot of people are going to go, oh, finally, Keita came to the party. But I think this is going to be Keita all year long. I think in some matchups he's going to thrive in. He's going to do well. And in others, he's going to maybe sit on the bench and we won't exactly see him too often. So that's I think Keita, the most, I will say the most positive thing one could take out of this matchup tonight when it comes to Keita's game is just the fact that Keita was actually able to show some of that development within his game that everybody was talking about over the summer. We were all talking about it, especially at Eurobasket. Everybody was talking about it. First two games, we didn't see it whatsoever. Tonight, we finally saw it. And it does give a little bit of, it does give a little bit of a cushion for the Celtics at that big man spot and a little bit of optimism towards the fact Keita could potentially be a rotation piece for the Celtics throughout the season in more than a joking way, right? Because I think some people out there think this big man rotation is a little bit of a joke. Keita, he can be a little bit more than just a joke.
Yeah, well, I want to say you talked about Eurobasket with him. I mean, he was the face of Celtics Talk Weekly this summer, so we got to give him some credit. So I look at this performance and you see it, and Seamus, you killed it with that because I have to say everything you said I was pretty much gonna try to say in a less, sophisticated way. But ultimately, though, with Neemias Queta, I mean, this is a
At
guy.
least he's honest.
It's true. Like
At least he's
I give
honest.
my takes, but Seamus has the big fancy words, and I just don't have that. But I'll learn. I've been learning from Seamus, so. But ultimately, with Queta, this is a guy where this season is really going to be a big prove it again, developmental year. But with Queta, I've always said this is a guy who shows me Robert Williams, less injury prone Robert Williams. However, this year,
Knock on wood right there.
knock on wood.
Jeez.
Yeah, you're right. We gotta knock on wood. We have to.
You guys hear this wood knocking?
I do.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, because there was the last wood knocking occasion. I knocked on the wood and then I rewatched the broadcast and went, you can't hear a damn thing.
Well, hold
And I
on.
go, well, I swear I knocked on wood. I mean, it was for something. It's like, all right, Brown injury. Like, here we go. His hamstring. Is it all right? All right, here we go.
No, but ultimately, this
You
though,
get this
with
baseball bat.
Queta,
We'll just knock on this wood, make sure. Okay. Anyway, go ahead, Griffin.
the train of thoughts. But with Queta this year, I mean, this is the year for him to really shine and really see what we can get from Queta. And this is the year where if it doesn't work out and you're seeing more of those, he's not really competing games where it might be time that, all right, this was his big experiment year. It might be time to say goodbye next year. You saw them do that to a lot of players this offseason, such as JD Davison being one of them. However, I think this was the most promising game from him because you saw him struggling against guys who are G League-esque guys or guys who are really going to come at the back end of the bench. However, you saw him against real competition at the center position. And as you guys said, him obviously outplaying Jakob Poeltl, those are pluses for me. And I see nothing but good things from Queta. And I like what you said. There's going to be nights where he's going to be in and out of the lineup. He's going to sit on the bench sometime. But this is a big prove-it year for Queta. And I'm excited to see what can happen because, again, he was the face of Celtics Talk Weekly for a little bit. I say let him go out there and give him his flowers because we'll see. This could either be a topic that we have where it's like, all right, get Queta off the team. This is not a guy we want to rely on. This is a guy that we'd rather have on the bench. Or this could be a guy where you're just starting something. And again, this is the case for most of the team this year. You're just giving guys opportunity.
It's going to be a long season.
It is. This is, but it has to happen at some point. And this is the year. This is the year where it's like, because listen, we might look back at this and we might say, hey, we are just talking about Queta for years. And if this never happened, Queta would have never developed into the star that he could become. Or we might look back at this and be like, wow, that was really a mistake to go after Queta. We should have got someone else off the market, maybe.
Well, wait, time out. There's no mistake in going after Queta. He's already surpassed. We got him. The Kings waived him after training camp of 2023,
of
like a bunch of
already a steal.
What's out in Sacramento, like they always do. It's like, the Sacramento Kings, they really cannot get out of their own way. They waive Queta, and the Celtics, they go, well, here's a two-way deal. And then he actually produced it. Actually, was it a two-way? It was either a two-way standard. Regardless, Queta has produced for the Celtics the last 2 years. And no, he's not been this, crazy starter for the Celtics. But the fact the Celtics can get the guys who are undrafted, two-way guys back into the roster, you can get anything out of those guys for multiple seasons. Same thing with Shimi Ojale years ago, right? Celtics, they drafted him 37th overall in the 2017 NBA draft. I mean, third pick, Jason Tatum, all the way in the second round, 37th overall. Shimi Ojale came next. And Shimi Ojale, people remember Shimi Ojale, it wasn't that great in Boston, couldn't put the ball on the floor. But he was with the Celtics for 4 seasons, and he started a game 7 in which the Celtics won. I mean, that is massive extraction of value out of a second-round pick. And just because his Celtics career doesn't go, to these lofty expectations of, he's this tenured role player and starter who starts for multiple championship teams like a Derek White, somebody like that. Not every deal has to be like a Derek White. They could be a little, you Daniel Tice along the way. Oh, nice little value here, and there that just, puts, I don't want to say puts duct tape on the ladder, but puts the prongs on the ladder, right? As a team ascends forward. So Keita, let's set the record straight on that. Keita up to this point has already surpassed his value
I also
as a Celtic, and from what the
also
Celtics picked him up from.
Keita's gotten a good amount of burn already. December, do you guys remember December last year? That was it the West road trip where he was just balling, man? And
Yeah.
I think like the luxury in which the gamble we're taking on Neemias Queta is because we got a lot of gambles this year, right? Brad Stevens, he might have a problem because he's gambling at a lot of different spots. And Neemias, though, to me, the position in the role in which he needs to play is so simplified for him, right? And he's got the intangibles. Like you see the play tonight, guys, with a high pick and roll with Derek White at the top of the key. White hits the slip, and then a backdoor cut from Minot. It was in the first half, and then the beautiful quick bounce pass on the backside cut to Minot. Like that vision, that ability as a big man to catch, stay controlled, turn, pivot, and then a quick bounce pass to see the backside cut. That shows me, okay, the intangibles of the big man is there, right? Getting in the right spots, getting up for a rebound, rolling, rim, like all that stuff. It's there. We're not asking Neemias to be, a 40% 3-point shooter or the league's best rim protector. We are simply asking him to go out there, be in the right spots that Mazzulla puts you in, and we've seen it like a Luke Cornett. You will succeed. You will produce at a high volume. So for Neemias, I think there's two parts. One, he's going to take time, right? He just needs more burn. He just needs to see more NBA action. It's just like last year was his first full year with us in terms of really seeing consistent minutes. And even still, it really wasn't consistent last year. So I look at Neemias as the guy where it's like, okay, like give him 20 games. He's 7 feet tall with amazing wingspan, and I like the Robert Williams comparison. He's very athletic. He's such a presence at the rim. He makes some stupid mistakes sometimes. You like to think that with more NBA action and more film and more tape and more attention from the Celtics coaching staff to mold him, that he'll get there, right? Andrew, we haven't heard from you. What do you think?
I agree with you, Rob, when you say like it's a simple game for him. Like as a coaching staff, like you just got to put him in a position to succeed. And you got to tell him, don't try to play out of your game. Like I know you're in Eurobasket. I know you're taking a lot of crazy shots. You're playing Euro, but it's the NBA. Just do your thing. Play within the system. Be at the rim. Contest shots. Set hard screens. Dive to the rim. Be available to your teammates and just play within the Celtics system. And I think Kate is very, very capable of doing so. So that's something that is very comforting to see. And then I also think he is also capable of taking a bit of a leap in that, because you said he still has time to grow. He still needs a little more playing time. So Kate is one of those guys that you do want to invest in, but he's also a guy that, for one, can give you the bare minimum of what you need, but can also actually improve it and grow. So right. I think Keita is a guy with the high ceiling, but just seeing Keita be able to, produce and show us what he's capable of tonight going into the regular season is just nice, because now I didn't think these last 2 preseason games or last 3 were going to be what Keita was going to give us. But now, as a coaching staff, you see more big men that you can utilize, and you see more big men that you can put into different situations and see what they can do. So it just gives the Celtics coaching staff a little more ability to play around and kind of look at matchups and be a little more versatile. So I think that's just having Keita gives us a little more opportunity to take advantage of opportunities and advantages.
I thought overall, though, with Neemias, I feel comfortable with the performance tonight, because this was the burn against the starters, right? This is the only game we have against real starters. And Seamus alluded to it earlier in the show. I mean, like he was better than Jakob Poeltl tonight. Like he just was. And Jakob's a guy that, I mean, he's reliable. He's when you think about big men, you don't really think about him, but he is a reliable big in this league. He has been. He's really plays the role in which we're asking the Mias to play, kind of to a T. He's kind of mastered it. And I thought Nimi looked great out there tonight, and I was very impressed with that. So with that,
I also want to say one more thing too, actually. And you got to think like he was playing with the starting lineup. So now you got those guys are making Keita better as well. So those first two games maybe weren't as outing because I think a guy like Keita, he can't do necessarily it on his own. But having a starting lineup that can create offensive looks, that can be threats on the perimeter, it just gives Keita a little more. It relieves the pressure off of Keita. So I think that's also something that can give the Celtics team a little more hope as well.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like the overall, I hate to say it, theme, because guys, we are now concluded for the preseason 4-game stretch. I mean, we said it earlier in the show. The next game Celtics are playing counts for their 82-game record at home against the Philadelphia 76ers next Wednesday. Tune in for Postgame Live. Quick little promo. So to sum it up, right, we got 4 games. We saw a bunch of different players play a bunch of different minutes and a bunch of different scenarios. Where are we at? Where are we at with the Boston Celtics? What is your final evaluation with this team? Because I know we've kind of hinted on it with, we talked about the Celtics versus the Raptors and all that. But for you, looking forward to this season, are you comfortable with the direction Boston might be heading in?
For me personally, I think the direction in which the team is on right now, I think they're in a perfect spot. Now, one's going to look at this and go, oh, okay, you get the Celtics analyst here. It's saying the Celtics are in the perfect spot. But right now, I'm not saying the Celtics are going to win the championship this year. I'm also not saying they're going to be a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. What I'm saying is the Celtics, at the very least, will be somewhat competitive in the Eastern Conference this year. They'll be somewhere in the middle of the pack. And I think this is going to be a fun season just from a standings watching perspective. I mean, I think we're gonna watch the standings a lot more this year than we did the last couple of years. Where last year, this is a legitimate fact, the Celtics. Well, I'm sorry, the last 2 years. I'll give 2 years, but last year the Celtics, they lost the number 1 seed at the end of October. I believe it was on Halloween, if I'm not mistaken, October 30th, 31st, somewhere around there, right? They lost the number 1 seed to the Cavs. The Celtics fell down to number 2. The Celtics never dipped down to number 3 nor went back up to number 1 for the rest of the season. So literally November, December, January, February, March, April, and obviously we go into the playoffs into May. The Celtics owned the exact same seed the whole way through, the number 2 seed. There was no reason to watch the standings last year. Maybe a couple moments where, the Knicks, are they going to be? No, they never did, right? They never did. The season before that, the Celtics, they held the number 1 seed from mid-October, or rather, I think it was actually mid-November. Ironically enough, the team that held it before the Celtics in October and November was the Philadelphia 76ers in 23-24. Yet, we all know the season fell apart for the Sixers. The Celtics, they grabbed the number 1 seed, and they rode it again all the way through that season. The Celtics, after mid-November of 2023, rode the number 1 seed throughout the regular season. So this year, finally, the last 2 years, the Celtics, and even the year before that, they jostled a little bit with the Bucks in there, if I'm not mistaken, in 22-23, jostled a little bit more. But the last 2 seasons specifically, the Celtics did not move in the standings past November. This year, the Celtics are they're certainly going to be in the mid-tier of that Eastern Conference. And I think that's what this preseason exemplified in a lot of ways, because we saw a lot of talent. We saw a lot of identity out of the Celtics, but then we saw moments where the talent wasn't always up to par. And then other moments where we saw the Celtics, again, the execution wasn't at championship level. It wasn't at what we are used to here at Celtics Nation of seeing the last 4 years. But that is exactly what we should get used to now, is the Celtics not being up to that championship level, not executing up to those standards anymore. They're going to be They're going to have an identity. They're going to be competitive, but they're ultimately not going to be amidst the top of the Eastern Conference. I'm seeing a lot of laughing right now on screen. I'm also seeing Rob dip. So I'm just guessing. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, this might be a Sacramento moment. It's a Sacramento moment, folks.
Yeah,
Rob,
I mean, it was necessary.
This was okay. This was the Kings hot on the piss. That's what it was. The Kings. But talking about the Eastern Conference though, not the West, not the Kings. To get back on topic, as Rob, he'll be
back.
soon.
He'll be back. Don't worry.
He'll be back.
He'll be back.
Yeah. There he
Oh,
is.
he's back.
There he is. Look at he teleported.
Oh, okay. Gotta get the dog out of here.
Good.
Gotta get the dog and cat out of here.
Oh, I got ratted out live on air. I'm sorry.
No. You didn't get ratted out.
No.
You didn't get ratted out. You got cryptically messaged out, I think, on air. Not ratted.
It
Note
happened.
to self, don't drink an entire bottle of water live on post game, folks.
It was a Shaq moment. Rob was drinking too much olive oil. You know?
Oh, well, yeah. It's I gotta say, like, that is not the first moment we've had on here like that. Come on. I mean, that's
it happens.
It happens.
We have clips.
I'll never forget Denver. But
Denver. Oh no. Oh, you're right. No, the Kings, they were the next game. Dang.
The Kings were the next game, Denver. I was able to hold it in against Denver. Tonight, though, I did not feel like doing laundry. But continue.
Did not refill the bottle.
If someone wanted to, some electrolyte company want to sponsor us, we could say it's why you drink electrolytes. Stay hydrated.
Yeah, exactly.
But you also,
Smart water. Hit my line. I drink it. I spend a lot of money on you, Smart water.
You stay hydrated. You guys bathroom.
Members mark, folks. Members mark.
Members mark. It's all right.
Anyway, what were we talking about? We were talking about talking about Eastern Conference.
Your thoughts? I'm sorry. I sunk the ship tonight, fellas.
No, that interesting wording to that one. Sunk the ship. A lot of liquid. Man, that's a lot of liquid to be sinking ships with that.
This is why preseason is so great, because you just get all
Griffin, you act like we're not going to be doing this stuff in the regular season.
We are.
Come on.
This is why
this is only preseason.
This is why Celtics Talk Weekly is so great.
Unfortunately,
everyone subscribe right now, because you guys get these moments all the time. You guys get the fun, interactive moments. So make sure to subscribe right now. And stay tuned in for all the uploads, because it's always
use the bathroom before long car rides.
Yes.
You can always pull over. I mean,
you can always pull over. What if there's no bathroom?
You guys live in the Northeast. There's like a million exits. You go out west. It's like, okay, there's not another exit for 96 miles. You
can always pull over. You could pull over too if you're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, in Maine,
not always.
My handy water bottle right there, and
there's some middle of nowhere areas where you're like, it's the inclement weather. That is the problem. But inclement weather-wise for the Celtics, I don't see a ton of it in the forecast in terms of being a team that legitimately struggles. But I see a world where the Celtics, they're not championship squad. I understand, but they're going to be competitive. But that's where the Celtics fan base wants the Celtics to be, with Jason Tatum coming back into the lineup eventually, either later this season or even next season. This team, we've talked about it over the summer. I remember specifically, Rob, you and I had a conversation about it, how this team is really not that far away from, if you add a Tatum, right? If you add a top 3 player in the NBA, which is what he was when he left the court at Madison Square Garden months ago. If you add a top 3 player, and maybe he isn't top 3 when he comes back, but still maybe top 10, top 15, you add another player like that into the lineup, and then you do have a couple of pieces. We mentioned Anthony Simons. Maybe you split him into 2 players, or you do package a couple of these players. Maybe there is a world in which the Celtics are, boom, the number 1 seed yet again next season right away, just from simply staying competitive this year and then adding their best player to the lineup next year, among also potentially reconfiguring the middle portion of the roster and the back end of the rotation. Ultimately, the Celtics, that's why they're in the perfect spot. They're in a spot that they're kind of playing with house money a little bit this season.
Oh,
Just a bit. I
absolutely.
mean, they're not
Absolutely.
they could lose every single game and that would be okay. It really would be. I mean, there'd be number one pick, whatever, right? I mean, that would be okay. And if the Celtics on the other end, I mean, if they put themselves in a spot, Jason Tatum, we know how gung ho he is to come back. The Celtics could put themselves in a spot. This Eastern Conference, I don't think it should be underestimated how poorly this Eastern Conference is structured from power dynamic this season. I mean, everybody's just, I mean, the Cavs are the favorite to come out of the East, and it's by process of elimination. It's not, whoa, the Cavs, they have this amazing lineup, which they, don't get me wrong, respect the Cavs. They have one of the better lineups in the whole entire NBA. But it really is by process of elimination. Oh, the Cavs were at the top of the conference last year. Surely they'll be here this year. But last year's Cavs team could have been seen as a fluke. The year before, they had the exact same roster. They were the 5 seed. Rather, they were the, 4 seed? They were the 4 seed the year before, right? They were in the 4-5 matchup with Orlando. The next year, the Cavs are the number 1 seed. Who's to say the Cavs don't drop back down to that 4-5 seed again? The Knicks should be better this year. But then, they were up and down throughout last season. What if Brunson? What if Cat? What if, anybody could get hurt at any moment in time and things ultimately swing. That's why the vacuum of power in the East this season, who knows if the Celtics are actually up there in the top 4 midway through the season, and it's like, the Cavs and the Knicks, they're not looking all that great. Who's to say Jason Tatum couldn't come back and all of a sudden the Celtics are maybe the favorites to come out of the East later on in time? That seems ludicrous where we sit right now. But the roadmap is not, well, there's this intricate, all of this has to happen. No, this is what has to happen. Jason Tatum comes back to the lineup. The Celtics are maintaining their competitiveness, and the other teams in the Eastern Conference just aren't really worth a damn. I mean, each one of those 3 things could easily happen, and all of a sudden the Celtics are right back to where they want to be. And this preseason, I think it gives us some confidence that the Celtics are not going to be this just garbage team out of the gates, and they're going to struggle all year long. They're surely showing signs at this point of owning an identity and owning the competitiveness it'll potentially take to put Jason Tatum back out on the floor later on in time. I don't see the Celtics just dipping down in the Eastern Conference whatsoever. There's too much talent, there's too much of an identity, and there's too much motivation in playing with house money for this team to truly be a bad squad this year. It's terrible to say. Oh, I shouldn't say it's terrible to say, but it's almost terrible to say from a Celtics analyst perspective, because this is what people expect us to say. But I think objectively, what we've seen over the Celtics, what we've seen from the Celtics over these past, I mean, let's just face it. I mean, the past decade, it's just the people in power, right? Brad Stevens, you still have Wick Rosbeck in the building, Bill Chisholm coming, he's the new, I don't want to say he's an add-on. He is the Boston Celtics now. But it's just the competency that shines through. The leaders, they know exactly the plan. They know what they want. And right now, the Celtics, they're just in a position of getting to that next stage of building the next championship roster. And I think for all, outside of Jason Tatum's Achilles tear, everything right now, if you factor that into just the circumstances, everything is going pretty well for the Celtics after this preseason.
I have to say, after this preseason, it's definitely a head scratcher, because it's like, what route are the Celtics going to go? I mean, we said it from the beginning of the summer. I mean, after a lot of the transactions went through, but we were like, this team isn't going to be awful. Like, there's no way they're going to be a terrible team. And I still believe this team is going to make it into the playoffs, because geez, I think I was even talking with Lewis about this on episode 71 of Celtics Nation Rise and they've been in the playoffs almost every year for a long, long time. So it's not like this team all of a sudden is not going to be a competitive team and we're just going to suck. No, we still have competitive players that want to win. And honestly, a lot of the players said it. The expectation and the standard that you're held at for being a Celtics player is incredible. And you have to look at that. So there is no way players are going to go out there and just hate it and, suck and tank. The Celtics are not a team like that. I feel like it's going to be throwing a dart at a map, It's like, what route are we going to be? Are we going to be the 7th seed? Are we going to go up to the 3rd seed? Like, where are we going to be at? I think that's the question you have to ask yourself. However, I think the Celtics are still going to be competitive. They have players that they, are competitive players, and you have a fan base that's going to hold the players accountable on a night-to-night basis. So ultimately, it's not like we're going to suck. But are we going to be the best team? We might be. Who knows? I mean, the East is so unpredictable. Yeah, obviously it's not like, oh, we're going for the championship this year, because that's definitely not in the mindset. But it's like, could we be a competitive team, and could we get up to the 4th seed? Maybe. But you look at it and it's like, this team could probably go a 7th seed. But what I'm seeing from preseason, and again, it's preseason, you can't take anything you see from preseason. Yeah, there's little details hidden in there, but you could be a great team in preseason and then go to regular season and be completely awful. It's what happens sometimes in the NBA. However, from taking the information I saw from preseason, I think we're going to be all right. I think we're going to be a solid team, and again, we're going to be a team that's very young, and it's going to be a lot of games where you're going to be banging your head against a desk, but at the end of the day, there's also going to be a lot of ups with this team, and I think there's going to be a lot of fun moments, and that's what I'm kind of getting at. This is going to be a one where, you don't have the stress of being championship or bust this year. You have the kind of fact where you could sit back and watch your team play and not be like, all right, we had to win that game. We have to win that game. There's going to be a lot more relaxed moments, and it's not going to be, obviously I'm still a big diehard Celtics fan, and I'm going to be rooting for the Celtics to win on a night-to-night basis, but it's not like it's going to be the end of the world because we're expecting to win a championship, because that is not in the mindset this year. It's not.
And I think that mindset may be reflective in the way opponents treat the Celtics, to where they may see Tatum's down. You guys have a younger core, new players, new kind of identity that needs to develop, to where teams might look at the Celtics and say, man, they're not the same as they used to be. We can kind of relax a little. We can kind of
slack
off. And then the Celtics still have that identity. They still have Joe Mazzulla, who is a psychopath and is not willing to let rebounds, he's taking guys off for offensive rebounds when in the preseason. He has the standard of basketball that the Celtics team has to reach for them to be successful. So I think teams may come into the season looking at this Celtics team thinking, they're not the same as they used to be, man. And so I think the Celtics can actually take advantage of that and kind of use it against their opponents.
I think the name of the game for this Celtics team this season is stay in the mix, because I have been on air, right, on record about Tatum is coming back, and he's coming back a lot earlier than everyone thinks. And I truly believe that when Tatum comes back, he's going to hit the ground running. And Seamus, we talked about it on a live this offseason. This team, when you insert Jason Tatum into the lineup, right, they are right there in the Eastern Conference. They are. And I think the name of the game for this team is just stay as a top 6 seed. Stay competitive. Show us that you can be competitive. So we have a reason to bring back our top 3 player, because every sign out of the Tatum that I'm seeing out of Tatum, he's going to be ready by the new year. I'm sorry. The March, the Aprils, I believe that's too far down the line. I believe that in 3 months from now, 3.5 months, by the turn of the new year, Jason Tatum will be ready to suit up again. So in that 3.5 month stretch, maybe 4, maybe you start and look into February, just stay relevant, stay competitive. I think after these 4 games, the Celtics have shown me they can do that. It might look weird. It might look ugly. Griffin, I love your analogy, throwing a dart on a map and you don't know where it's going to land, or the route you're going to take, or 2 darts, let's call it 2 darts, right? You got to go, the starting destination and your ending destination. You don't know how or what it's going to look like, but there's a start and there's a finish. And I think for the Celtics, they've shown me that, listen, you can stay competitive. This is a weak Eastern Conference, and that the Celtics are going to be able to stay in the mix for their all NBA first team player to come back when he is 100%, emphasis on the 100%. But guys, we had some interesting news break today. Like really random. And it's just such a shame Franco's not here with us to talk about this. We actually, he did leave us, a little comment. So we can flash that up right there. Malcolm Brogdon, guys. Malcolm Brogdon, 2017 Rookie of the Year. In 2023, Sixth Man of the Year with the Boston Celtics. Malcolm Brogdon has retired officially from the NBA, guys. What? Well, I mean, did you guys have that on your bingo card?
No, he went with the Knicks this year. That was a huge head scratcher for me. That was.
Good night, Franco.
Thank you. Good night. I hope you have the sweetest dreams.
Hope you dream of beating the media team.
Up next.
Yes, up next.
No, but first, Malcolm Brogdon, I think this is both fortunate and unfortunate. Fortunate for the fact he's not going to be producing for the New York Knicks this season, as we're talking about in the Eastern Conference standings right now. But unfortunate from also the other side of it. We're not going to see Malcolm Brogdon play basketball anymore. And he was ultimately somebody we all enjoyed watching play for the Celtics, and not only play for the Celtics, but he had a nice career before he played with the Boston Celtics. And he was always a nice opponent of the Celtics, either with the Bucks or the Pacers. The Celtics trading Daniel Tice, Aaron Nesmith, and a bunch of others to the Pacers for Malcolm Brogdon, then eventually dealing Malcolm Brogdon to the Blazers before he was dealt to the Wizards. And then, of course, Brogdon this summer signs with the Knicks before he retires. But Brogdon, he was just, he's a little, his career almost, I don't want to say it's not unfulfilled. Okay, it's not, because he spent what, I don't remember what. So this would be his 16, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. So yeah, this would have been his 10th season in the NBA, Malcolm Brogdon, and certainly had a long competitive career, made his money throughout his career, but it feels like he had something left in the tank. It feels like he might have had something left in the tank, and he's just one of those that goes out pretty early, and you never know. Maybe he could come back at 34 and contribute for a team, or maybe in a season from now he changes his mind. Does just a little out of nowhere, Malcolm Brogdon retires, because we were kind of waiting for the moment Malcolm Brogdon finally squads with a team who's competitive, right? Because Malcolm Brogdon, he's with the Bucks, he's with the Pacers, he's with the Celtics. All those teams are competitive. Then all of a sudden he's traded to the Blazers in the Drew Holiday deal, not with a competitive team out there, traded to the Wizards, not with a competitive team in Washington. Finally finds himself on a competitive team with New York. And then, of course, he appeared to be contemplating retirement to the point of actually making that decision for himself, which is 100% respectable for Malcolm Brogdon. Wish him nothing but the best in his retirement. But up to this point, I mean, yeah, Malcolm Brogdon, we didn't quite see him play for another competitive team after the Celtics. And that Sixth Man of the Year run was really Malcolm Brogdon's last real hoorah in the spotlight of the NBA. And it's amazing the Celtics actually went after him, because for years, pinpointed Brogdon as a guy, that guy would work really well next to Brown and Tatum. And for that one season, certainly did. But he was part of the sacrificial cast of characters who went out for the Celtics to actually go ahead and build their championship roster with Drew Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis. This is certainly surprising to me, Malcolm Brogdon retiring. But then again, in the past, we've seen guys retire, they come back. This could be another one of those cases, or Malcolm Brogdon just retires and we never see him play basketball again. What I do wonder out of Malcolm Brogdon, does he, what does his career path look like? Does he just kind of, some guys just kind of fade away into the abyss and you don't really hear from him anymore? Will he go into media? Will he coach basketball somewhere? All those things when a player retires, especially at an early age, all of those positions are up in the air, and you never know. He could be involved in basketball in a much bigger way somewhere else than just playing for, say, the New York Knicks this season.
The fact that he's Jaylen Brown's draft class does not sit well with me. I feel a little old. I'm not going to lie. I mean, he was literally drafted with Jaylen Brown, and now we're in year 10, and is someone from Jaylen Brown's draft class. I mean, guys, we're 2 years away. I mean, a 12-year career in the NBA that's a long career. I mean, like, we're at the point now where we're going to start seeing members of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum's draft class start to exit the league. Some of those guys who were drafted in the mid-first round, who kind of, their time has come, and, they're 31, 32, and they just don't have the juice anymore. I don't think that was the case for Brogdon. I think he kind of was ahead of the gun, and he maybe there's an injury in there somewhere we don't know about, and he wasn't feeling 100%, and he just didn't want to push it. But I mean, that's not, how about that? That same draft class as Jaylen Brown. I don't like that. I don't like that at all.
And let's put this into perspective. This is a guy we, nearly 10 years ago, we debated on the point of who should be Rookie of the Year. Should it be Brogdon, Dario Saric? You had Joel Embiid, and the Sixers just for multiple seasons were rolling out guys who weren't rookies. I mean, Joel Embiid, Malcolm Brogdon, that's, he is the hero, because the next year the Sixers finally broke through it, cheating for the Rookie of the Year award, right? Cheating, and they roll out second-year guys for this award. But Ben Simmons wins that. It wins in 2017-18, but 16-17, Malcolm Brogdon beats out Joel Embiid and Dario Saric for the award, and that was kind of a the little golf clap from Celtics fans, seeing Malcolm Brogdon win Rookie of the Year over two 76ers. But we were debating on that point what seems like yesterday, and now all of a sudden we're talking about Malcolm Brogdon retiring. Goes from Malcolm Brogdon, is he going to be Rookie of the Year or not, to Malcolm Brogdon, congratulations on your retirement. Again, a little bit of an early retirement, but you pointed out, Rob, he's in the same draft class as Jaylen Brown. That draft class, if we looked at it, Jaylen Brown is, I mean, just think, Ben Simmons isn't signed with the team right now. Brandon Ingram we saw on the Raptors tonight. Jaylen Brown is still going. There can't be too many guys from that draft class even left in the league if you really look at it from a majority standpoint of guys in that draft class. But it's just crazy how time moves on. Jaylen Brown, 10 years into the league, that is when we talk about veteran players, right? Guys reach their 4th, 5th, 6th year. You're kind of a veteran. You've been here, couple times around the ringer of the regular season, right? But a decade. That is legit. That's getting into, Draymond Green with his pepper beard, right? You're thinking, oh my goodness, these guys are getting a little up there. And I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum specifically, just to go off this point, they're kind of the older guys in the league now. You're gonna have to find different ways to win in the league now. They are the older class of players, and definitely Malcolm Brogdon retiring this afternoon certainly exemplifies that. And time just moves so fast, folks. You don't want to blink.
And going off of that, it shows the importance of taking advantage of every season that you have. And this Celtics team, while we hear a lot of conversations on, it's a developmental year where we'll kind of see where this goes, it's like, no, you don't really have a choice but to go all in every season and try to win games at whatever it takes. Like, you have to go all in, and maybe it's not the perfect storm, but you still have to try to find a way to make this team a winning team and take advantage of having Brown at this age, and take advantage of having guys like, Tatum may come back. Like, you can't play around and act like it's a developmental team when you have guys of this caliber on your squad. And so Brogdon retiring at this age just goes to show that there's a chance how many years do you have left with these guys? So you have to take advantage of every single moment in every single team, no matter what they look like, and try to win games.
Totally. And this was such a gut punch for me, because I was such a big, obviously it's better to see him retired than play with the Knicks, because we know how we are about the Knicks. But ultimately, I was a big Brogdon fan. I had a Brogdon jersey. I mean, I
got myself one too.
Yeah, he won 6th Man of the Year with the Boston Celtics, and that was a guy where, at the time we were wondering, was this the winning piece to bring us to the championship and win it. And that was a big thing for us. And it's like, wow, he's retired. And Rob, I think you mentioned it, or Seamus. It's the fact that usually you see a decline, or you see they usually aren't picked up by a team. However, he was on the Knicks. Like, he was on the Knicks roster. So it's definitely interesting to see that he retired, and I wish him nothing but the best and enjoy your retirement. But it's definitely a head scratcher at the end of the day, because usually those players that, exit the league, you see a decline in their play, and you see them teams not wanting to go after him. However, he still had more left in the tank, I believe. Now, again, there could totally be something behind the scenes that we don't know, injuries or personal issues, because who knows what's going on. But ultimately, it's a sad day, but at the same time, it's a day that we can remember the great memories with Malcolm Brogdon. So good luck on your retirement. But again, like you guys said, I wouldn't be shocked if we see him come back to the league one day, and he's like, all right, I'm, retirement. Maybe this could be a 1 to 2 year retirement, or this could be really the end of his career.
I'll tell you this, he's certainly not coming back with the Celtics, though. Wasn't too happy with the C's after, you're traded to the Clippers, and then all of a sudden you're not, and then you're traded to the Blazers again. Wouldn't be on him coming back with the Celtics.
Little Dalton Connect action right there.
Yeah.
You see that?
We actually traded him, like, goodbye.
See that at the free throw line, they were chirping him like,
oh, Draymond,
Draymond was chirping. He's like, you got traded. They don't want you.
Yeah,
that's crazy, man. It's a tough situation to be in.
It's a part where, and it's a part where Malcolm Brogdon probably doesn't look so highly on the Celtics anymore, but Celtics fans still do. I still do. I love.
We didn't
I love Brogdon. Yeah, we didn't make the trade like you said, but no.
But thanks for my ring, Malcolm. Thanks for the ring. You helped us just not the way you maybe thought. Not the way you designed. But everyone's got different paths.
It's like it's like the Golden Gate Bridge. Real quick, the Golden Gate Bridge. You see everything pretty, but it's like Malcolm Brogdon, Isaiah Thomas, all those guys.
Marcus
names.
All these
all
guys,
the pillars under the water. Right?
Butterfly.
I remember
100%.
when we won. I remember Seamus put out a post. You put out a post, and it was just a collage. It's like my favorite post on Instagram of all time. It was just a collage of just every Celtics player that did that played for us but couldn't get the job done with us, and it was like a thank you.
I'm pretty sure it was it was all the important faces, right? Important faces. I'm not even sure if I'm pretty sure somebody else made that.
The Brandon Basses of the world,
but
the Brandon Basses of the world.
Yes, like it was just. I remember after winning, I saw it. I was like, this has to be my favorite photo of all time.
I saw that too. I saw
yes.
That. Wasn't into media then, but I definitely saw that as a dive.
I thought it was pinned. I'm not even kidding. I have your account pulled up right here because when we started talking about Brogdon, I was like, is that pinned? I thought it was, but it's not.
Those are some of my favorite. We're gonna see that sometime down the line. That post on Instagram where like it's some random arbitrary poll of a play, and we're gonna see Brogdon just making a sick play, and we're gonna be like, man, he was a talent.
Yeah.
He was a
great
talent.
old Brogdon.
Yeah. All right, but so something interesting that happened. Was it yesterday now? Yeah, it was. And we alluded, we gave it a little sneak peek. The Celtics coaching staff and Joe Mazzulla, they normally do a scrimmage between 5-on-5, 5 of all the coaching staff. Well, this year it looks like Joe Mazzulla looked like he wanted to take out some of his angers on the reporters, and the Celtics coaching staff found themselves scrimmaging the Boston Celtics media crew. And let's just say it wasn't pleasant for the reporters, guys. 57-4. Did you see that? And was that a typo? I mean, 57-4. First of all, if you guys need some talent, Celtics crew in all aspects, on the court and off the court, you got 4 guys right here. We can help you out.
Oh yeah.
I got us. Power forward.
We got more now. I mean, 6. I mean, we can farm a whole team here.
We can farm a whole team. So next year, let's do a little tournament. How about that? Let's do a little tournament.
Also, real quick, just
media
just
companies
for
versus media
proof
companies.
here, we got the 57-4.
57-4.
Couldn't get the
I
graphic
mean,
up, but I mean, this
that's-
is just as good, I feel like.
And-
But
GTA.
You got to keep that under wraps. You gotta.
I know when I
Yeah.
saw. Okay, here's my thing. Here's why I wanted to do this segment. Everybody finds this to be hilarious and funny, and everybody was doing content on it and like, we got beat, ha ha ha. This was not funny. I'm sorry, folks. This was utterly embarrassing for the media involved because when you are part of the media, right? You are part of the cohort of people who give information to society. You are the know-it-alls about whatever you cover. Okay, so when you go out there and actually execute something you're covering, right? I mean, it's almost like talking about driving a car all day, like, I know how to drive a car, like this is how you do it, this is how, and then going out on the road and just completely crashing into a fire hydrant, a light post, like a house, like other cars. I mean, that's basically what this performance was like from the Celtics media.
Seamus, I have to give a little pause on that, though. I do have to say I agree, but we're forgetting there's some guys in there that have extreme ball knowledge and hooped like a little more past college level even too. So I don't know. I think
Time out. Are you suggesting? What are you suggesting
they're
right
older,
now?
I mean,
That these people with
What are you
ball knowledge are out of shape? Is that what you're saying? Or past their
I
prime?
have to say this though, but I saw one media member that was like, I'm sorry, but he was really old.
Hefty?
Like
Old?
who?
What?
But I'm just saying.
We're not naming names right now.
But
I know.
I
We
don't
know
know.
who was there. Okay.
We don't
We know who it was.
I get more than 4 points. I get more than
Yeah,
4
let's
Davis
reel it in
stirring
now. Let's
the pot
reel it in.
tonight.
now.
4. You gotta get more than 4. You're right. You
No,
gotta
I'm
get
sorry.
more
When I
than
saw that, I was like, this is so utterly embarrassing for people who cover basketball. I mean, and what's hilarious about it too, Joe goes up on the podium earlier today before the game and he goes, that was such a great bonding moment between the coaches and the media, and we walked into the same competitive arena and we were on the same playing field. And what I didn't like about what Joe said there is he kind of dismissed the media as like, oh no, we're the athletes are in a competitive playing field, but the media, you guys are just doing your jobs over on the sideline. You're not in a competitive playing field. I think we know here in media, media is very competitive in its own right. But regardless, Joe was going, oh, this was a great bonding experience. And I'm going, I think, and John Zanis, I'll name a name here, John Zanis, who was not in the game, right? John Zanis did not play in the game, but he mentioned on Twitter, no, this is really just an excuse for Joe to kick the entire media's ass when it comes to basketball.
Yeah.
And just to bring it to them, just to absolutely bring it to them and kind of shove it in their face. Go, yeah, all these dumb questions you guys ask throughout the season. It's like, yeah, come out on court and actually play with us. And that's why I thought it's not funny. It's kind of embarrassing. It's not kind of. It absolutely is embarrassing for the media. And I'm going to disclaim this. CTW had no part in that game whatsoever.
No,
okay, folks, we were not at the Auerbach Center. We were not there. We did not participate in that game because I'm sorry, that performance right there, 57-4, it was in 12 minutes of play. 12 minutes. I mean, I feel like, come on, give me the CTW crew out there, R6, right? R6 guys. And maybe you build out the bench from there. We can put up at least 10 points, at least 15 points. I'm thinking at least 20. At least, 20. I'm thinking it's going to be not. I don't want to say, oh, we're going to go out there and win because the Celtics coaching staff, they have a couple of former NBA
I see
players.
I see it as this. That game, there's laughing during the game from the media members. There's kind of joking around. We're having some fun.
We're not joking around. We're
not joking.
That is right there.
It was a psychological battle that Mazzulla was playing. Like he wanted the media team to think that you can ask questions, but we don't care. Like we're playing, we're playing a psychological battle. And he tried to assert dominance. Like that can't happen. There needs to be a little more dignity from within, like saying, man, we're important too, and
that's your game 7. That is your game. Yeah,
that is
7.
your game.
If you put me on that floor and I'm not leaving without a couple battle scars.
That's Michael Jordan. Exactly. That's Michael Jordan playing against the Monstars.
Where's the pride? Like, that's my thing. It's like the
beam was pointed at Earth.
All right.
Matt, you're telling him what to say.
No, I'll hold back on that.
Let's put this out there, though. Let's put this out there. I'm diving for loose balls and stuff. I'm out there, and I'm getting rugged. I'm throwing elbows. I'm physical. I am playing my heart out. You know,
And this shows
I'm
what
picking
the
Joe
Celtics-
Missoula up full court. 94
yeah.
feet, Joe. I'm
Yeah,
picking
yeah.
you up
Yeah.
94
We're-
feet.
we're-
because
and
I
this
guarantee
shows-
this. I don't
94
think
you
I
might
don't
you
think
might
that-
bust my ass for 94 feet, but you damn well know I'm on your ass for
Yeah.
94 feet, Joe.
exactly. And
At
I
least
bet
we're going
this-
out
like-
fighting.
That's how
and
I'm
I bet
coming.
this. I bet the coaching staff didn't hold anything back. They were like, "Oh, we're sick and
Oh,
tired of
no.
these guys. Oh, heck no."
Yeah.
See,
long
and
as-
that's,
Tell you.
you can't laugh and joke. And
Someone make
I
the call. Make this happen. Celtics
Let's
coach.
figure it
First of all, maybe
Please.
put us up against the Celtics media team, right?
Yes.
Let's
The
do a little
Celtics
tournament.
style.
Let's
whoever wins,
Tournament
whoever,
style, right?
Little
Winner gets the
tournament.
coaching
Whoever
staff
wins
next
gets
year.
the coaching staff.
but
correct.
we're
we're-
beating the media team. I feel like I really think we're beating the media team.
You think
I
they're
know,
7 to
I-
4?
I don't think I
Let's
know.
We
make
have the
call.
youth and the athleticism, the speed, the quickness that I feel
The
as if
spirit.
they're maybe lacking just a little bit.
The
All right,
talent.
a bit.
this on my side might be an issue, but I get under the rim and I get some boards. And I'll
No,
put-
we'll have you. Yeah, I mean, you'll play in the. We'll have you set the screens, dive. We'll run Celtics offense
Oh, yeah.
on Joe
Oh, yeah.
Missoula.
oh yeah,
I mean,
you know,
it's
give
dangerous.
me a little corner three really quick or something.
We're
like
gonna
that.
win. We're gonna beat Joe Missoula, and we're not gonna take a
In
single
his own
three.
game. In his own game.
Yeah, I don't even
Yeah.
need a three. Put me in the paint. I mean, I'm tall. Give it to me. I got you.
We're going
I got
old school basketball.
And
Yeah.
we're gonna come out with much better effort and intensity because I completely agree with what you said, Andrew. The game, right? It's like fun media game, whatever. No, I'm
It's
sorry.
deeper
This
than
was
that.
like deep down below Joe Missoula. Every inch of Joe Missoula, he wants to take every ounce of value out of everything, right?
Yeah,
He
he does-
sees this
yes,
competition like.
yes.
I forgot who said it during media day, but we'll be sitting there watching baseball with Joe, and then all of a sudden he'll pick up something from the shortstop and apply it to the next practice, right? That's who Joe Missoula is. In this game, I mean, all these media members, it's fun, whatever. I would have been pissed if we got beat by that much. I'm sorry, I would have been pissed. And furthermore, I'm sorry, but like this is, I almost see it like that. Joe Missoula, he's kind of the one who set this up in a sense, right? He wanted to see this happen. I almost want to go, all right. Well, not almost. If we were put in this situation, this is what our mentality would be. Okay, Joe, you want to play us? We want to beat you right now and show that, okay, all these dumb questions actually come from an area of, yeah, that's right. We know how to play ball. We know how to go get out here and hoop. Because what we saw from these media members, I go, oh, you guys ask the questions. You guys are the information givers, and you can't score 6 points? 6? 6. I mean, were they playing by ones and twos? I don't even know. That's when when I saw 57-4, I go, is that ones and twos? Like, did they score at least 4 buckets? But then that
You
just
think
makes
Missoula's
it totally
playing without
embarrassing
two
on the other
threes?
end of the floor.
The old
But
Well,
I'm sorry. I
Skip
feel like
Bayless
it's
debate.
even afterwards, like, oh, the content. I've been like, oh, I'm sorry. Let's take
means
this
2
seriously. Joe Missoula took this serious when it comes to whooping our ass.
Well,
How
well,
about we take it
you might
serious
not-
in preventing it?
You might
Was
not
it-
have seen
was
the
it-
content if the
was
scores
it-
like that. I think we would have just said, you know what?
Well,
Let's turn the
what
cameras
if
off.
it was
Let's get the footage.
a plant where they're going, let's just back off and that's too conspiratorial. Because it was almost too coordinated afterwards, right? With all the like CLNS did a piece on it, John Corrales did a piece on it. I'm sure NBC did a piece on it. We're just secretly ousting everybody who was in this game, but everybody within those organizations, they did a piece on it, right? And it was almost like, oh yeah, this is like almost it was like a setup, but really, I mean, 57-4. I would, if you're a media member, you probably want to set something a little better up for yourself than just we got our ass whooped. I mean, that's again, it's
like
to me, it is
if-
actually embarrassing what happened on that court, and as we're all media members here, right? Like we're in the same boat as them.
If anything,
They
it
are
gives
our
us-
True.
True.
It's like
Gives
that was
some
not a good
motivation.
showing. That's why
It
you
was
got
not.
CTW team. We bring them in. Bring them in.
We should,
It was not-
You know,
it
we
was
should
not a
do a
good
tournament, media teams, a little charity event. You know,
Oh,
get it
there's an
going.
idea. Look at that. There's another idea. It was not a good showing, though. It was not a good showing. But it was a good showing, guys, for the Boston Celtics tonight because they picked up a 110 to 108 win against the Toronto Raptors in their fourth and final preseason game. Guys, the next time the Boston Celtics are going to be taking the floor will be the first game of their 2025-2026 NBA season campaign against the Philadelphia 76ers. That will be Wednesday, October 22nd. It's at 7:30 tip-off, guys. Again, that will be at the TD Garden. Catch that game on NBC Sports Boston. Not nationally televised. That's kind of weird, guys. Celtics opening night against the Sixers, not national TV. A little weird, guys. But again, as for tonight, the Boston Celtics, they were able to win 110 to 108. Guys, after the final buzzer sounds against Philadelphia Sixers, we'll come right back here to the Celtics Talk Weekly YouTube channel. Catch us live for the Celtics Talk Weekly post-game show. And real quick before we end, guys, if you're not subscribed, subscribe right now and make sure to turn on the post notifications so you get alerted right when us and all of our crew goes live on anything and post anything. Guys, again, thank you so much from me, Seamus, Griffin, Andrew, from all of us over here, and Justin and Franco, from all of us over here at Celtics Talk Weekly. We're excited for the start of the new season. Until next time, go Celtics.